The infertile wealthy man spent a night with an innocent girl. Years later, she returned with his child. Even the grandest of halls, draped in velvet and gold, seemed cold to Adrian Vale that evening. Wealth, power, and influence surrounded him like an impenetrable armor, yet none of it could fill the hollow ache of knowing he could never have a child. Hi, everyone. Before we dive into today's story, I have a small request. Please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in creating more dramatic stories for you. Where are you watching from? Write your city or country in the comments below. Thank you so much. That night, she had been breathtaking in her innocence, her eyes wide with wonder and curiosity. Clara, her name whispered through his mind like a forbidden promise. She had come into his world by accident, a naive girl with laughter that could melt the hardest heart. One night, one mistake, or perhaps fate, had brought them together. He had known the consequences, yet he had given in, letting desire rule where reason failed. Years passed. Clara vanished, leaving only memories that haunted Adrian in the quiet hours of his estate. He tried to immerse himself in work, in lavish galas and endless business deals, but no distraction could erase her from his mind. The echo of her laughter, the warmth of her touch, even the subtle scent she left behind, they lingered like a bittersweet melody. And then the knock came at his mansion's ornate door. It was soft, polite, but it stirred something deep inside him. Clara stood there, older now, more composed, yet with the same luminous eyes that had tormented and enchanted him for years. In her arms was a small child, eyes wide and bright, with a face that mirrored his own in an uncanny, undeniable way. "Adrian," she said softly, her voice trembling yet calm, "I need you to meet someone." The child looked up at him, innocent yet strangely familiar. Adrian's heart pounded as clarity struck. This little being was a result of that single, fateful night. The child he had thought he could never have, the bond he had longed for but denied himself, was standing right before him. He stepped closer, tentative, afraid to break the fragile moment. Clara's hand reached for his, fingers brushing softly against his own. Sparks ignited, an undeniable warmth spreading through him as years of regret, longing, and unspoken love surged at once. "Why now?" he asked, his voice rough with emotion. "Because some things are too important to leave behind," she replied, her eyes glistening. "Some love, some connections, they find their way back, no matter how long it takes." Time seemed to slow. The child giggled, wrapping tiny arms around Clara's neck, and Adrian felt a rush of emotion unlike anything he had ever known. This wasn't just a reunion. It was a second chance, a new beginning, a love that had endured silently through the years, waiting for the perfect moment to return. Adrian knelt, letting the child's small hands touch his face, feeling a warmth he had never imagined possible. And when Clara's eyes met his, deep and sincere, the world outside the walls of the mansion disappeared. It was just the three of them, bound together by fate, longing in a love that had waited patiently for this very moment. He whispered her name, almost as if afraid to break the fragile magic of the instant, and she responded with a soft smile that reached her eyes, igniting the flame of desire and tenderness that had never truly faded. Adrian realized then that the night they had shared so long ago had been only the beginning, and that now, together, they could finally write the story they were meant to live. Adrian slowly rose, keeping his gaze locked on Clara's, and felt a strange mixture of fear and exhilaration. He had spent years imagining this reunion, yet nothing could have prepared him for the reality of seeing her standing there, the child in her arms, a living, breathing proof of their connection. Every instinct in him, every bit of pride, wealth, and carefully constructed control, faded beneath the tide of raw emotion that now surged through him. Clara stepped closer, the child nestled safely against her chest. The little one reached out a tiny hand toward Adrian, hesitant at first, then braver as if sensing something familiar in him. Adrian bent forward, his fingers trembling as they brushed against the soft hand. The child's laughter rang out, innocent and pure, and for the first time in years, Adrian felt an uncontainable warmth bloom in his chest. He had imagined the feeling countless times in sleepless nights, but this, the reality, was infinitely more overwhelming. "You're him," Clara whispered softly, almost to herself. Yet Adrian caught the words clearly. You're the one I've been waiting to show him, waiting for him to know who his father is. Adrian swallowed hard, his throat tight. He felt a pull, not just of the child, but of Clara herself, the woman who had haunted his dreams for so long. She had grown into something breathtaking, a blend of innocence and strength that made his heart ache. He began, but words failed him. What could he possibly say? How could he convey the storm of regret, longing, and love that had simmered inside him for all these years? Clara stepped even closer, closing the distance between them. The air seemed to shimmer, charged with the silent electricity of desire and unspoken feelings. Her eyes searched his, daring him to speak, to act, to finally claim the connection that had never truly been broken. Adrian reached for her hand again, holding it gently, almost reverently, as if afraid to let the moment slip away. You don't know how long I've waited for this, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. All those years, I carried him, carried the thought of you, the memory of that night. And now I can't imagine my life without you in it. The words struck Adrian like a lightning bolt. His heart raced as he stepped closer, until there was no space left between them. The scent of her hair, faintly floral and familiar, enveloped him, making him dizzy with desire and longing. He wanted to reach out, to draw her into his arms, to erase the years of separation with one embrace. And yet, there was a hesitation, a fragile uncertainty that made the moment even more tender. The child shifted in Clara's arms, gazing up at Adrian with wide eyes that mirrored his own. A soft laugh escaped the little one, breaking the tension like sunlight piercing through clouds. Adrian's heart swelled with a love he had never known existed, pure, unconditional, and terrifying in its intensity. He knelt down, arms open, and the child crawled into his lap without hesitation, wrapping tiny fingers around his neck. Adrian held the little one close, feeling a bond so immediate and profound that tears pricked at his eyes. Clara watched silently, a soft smile playing on her lips, and for a moment they were suspended in a perfect bubble of time. No past regrets, no future worries. Just the two of them and the child who had unknowingly united their hearts again. Adrian lifted the child gently, spinning him around once, making him squeal with delight. Laughter echoed to the grand hall, a sound so full of life that Adrian felt it seeping into the very corners of his soul. You've grown up so much, Adrian whispered, his voice thick with emotion. And yet, somehow, you've carried a part of me all along. The child giggled again, pressing a small hand against Adrian's cheek, as if acknowledging the bond in a way words never could. Clara's gaze softened, and she stepped closer once more, resting her hand on Adrian's shoulder. The warmth of her touch sent a shiver through him, and he felt a deep, unspoken connection rekindle between them. I wanted to tell you sooner, she said, her voice trembling slightly. But I had to be sure that you would understand, sure that you would be ready to accept him and me into your life. Adrian's fingers brushed against hers, holding them together in a silent promise. I've waited for this, he admitted, his voice low and earnest. Every day, I've waited for the chance to make things right, to be here for both of you. I don't care about anything else, just you and him. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, and she leaned closer, their foreheads touching gently. The connection between them was electric, a mixture of tenderness, desire, and years of longing finally finding release. And I've waited for you, she whispered back, her breath warm against his lips. Every day, wondering if this moment would ever come. And now that it has, I don't ever want to let go. Adrian tilted his head slightly, capturing her lips in a kiss that was soft at first, exploratory, then deepening as the years of separation, yearning, and unspoken love poured into it. Clara responded instinctively, her arms wrapping around his neck, pulling him closer, as if trying to erase the distance that had existed between them for so long. The child clapped his hands joyfully, laughing at the sight, and Adrian couldn't help but chuckle, feeling an overwhelming sense of completeness he had never known before. When they finally broke apart, breaths mingling, Adrian rested his forehead against hers, eyes searching hers for reassurance. We'll figure this out, he murmured, his voice full of certainty and love. Together, all of us. No more waiting. No more hiding from what we feel. Clara nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips, and for the first time in years, Adrian felt the weight of loneliness lift from his chest. He looked down at the child nestled in his arms, then back at Clara, and realized that life had given him a second chance at everything he had ever longed for: love, family, and a future full of hope. And as the sun dipped low outside the grand windows, casting golden light over three of them, Adrian understood that some moments are meant to change the course of life forever, and some loves, once found, never let go. The laughter of the child echoed to the hall as Adrian set him down gently, letting him toddle forward a few steps before spinning around to see Clara smiling at the sight. Her presence was magnetic, and Adrian felt a warmth spreading through him, a combination of desire and tenderness that had lain dormant for years. He watched her carefully, noting the graceful way she moved, the way her eyes sparkled in the fading light, and the soft curve of her lips that seemed to call to him in a language older than words. Clara knelt to pick up a small toy the child had dropped, and Adrian felt a sharp pang of longing. He wanted to step closer, to pull her into his arms, yet something inside him told him to let her make the first move. It was as if the universe had conspired to place this moment entirely in her hands, giving her the power to choose whether they would truly step into this second chance together. The child, sensing the tension between them, reached up and grabbed Clara's necklace, tugging it playfully. Clara laughed softly, her eyes meeting Adrian's, and in that glance he felt 1,000 unspoken words pass between them. Her hand brushed his for a fleeting second as she handed the toy back to him, and that touch, light and fleeting, sent shivers down his spine. It was a reminder of the intimacy they had shared years ago, tempered now by a deeper, more enduring connection. "I can't believe you're really here," Adrian said finally, his voice low, almost reverent. "All this time, I thought I'd never see you again." Clara's eyes softened, and she reached out to touch his cheek lightly. "I had to come back when I was ready. Not just for me, but for him and for you. This us, it's too important to let fear decide." Her fingers lingered on his skin, warm and firm, grounding him in the reality of the moment. Adrian's heart thudded, a mixture of fear and excitement, desire and love, all mingling into a dizzying emotion he could barely contain. He took her hand in both of his, holding it as if it were the most precious thing in the world. "I've spent years imagining this moment," he admitted, his voice trembling slightly. "But nothing could prepare me for how real it feels." Clara leaned in, her forehead resting against his once more. "Real is good," she whispered. "Better than any dream, better than any fantasy. Real is us, Adrian. Right here, right now." He closed his eyes, letting her words sink into him, letting the truth of her presence and the child in his arms wash over him like sunlight after storm. When he opened them, he saw her gaze fixed on him, unwavering, filled with a mixture of hope and longing that mirrored his own. He stepped closer, closing the distance between them until there was no space left, and gently cupped her face in his hands. "I never stopped thinking of you," he confessed, his thumb brushing softly over her cheek. "Not for a single day, not for a single night." Clara's lips parted slightly, her eyes glistening. "I never stopped either," she murmured, her voice barely audible. "Even when life tried to pull me away, even when I thought I was alone, you were always there, in my heart, in my dreams, in everything I did." Adrian leaned down then, capturing her lips in a kiss that was tender at first, exploratory, and then deepened as their emotions, pent up for so long, poured into it. Clara responded instinctively, her arms wrapping around his neck, pulling him closer as if to erase the years of separation in a single embrace. The child clapped and laughed, delighted by the sight, and Adrian chuckled, feeling a joy so profound it nearly overwhelmed him. When they finally broke apart, gasping for breath, Adrian rested his forehead against hers, eyes searching hers for the same unspoken truth he felt coursing through him. "We can make this work," he said softly. "We'll figure out everything together. You, me, and him. No more secrets. No more waiting." Clara's hand found his again, fingers intertwining with his. "Yes," she whispered. "Together. We can do anything if we face it as a family. This is what I've wanted all along. To be with you, to give him a life filled with love, to give us a chance at happiness we both deserve. The child toddled over, tugging at Adrian's hand, his laughter ringing like music in the grand hall. Adrian lifted him into his arms again, holding him close as the little one pressed a small kiss against his cheek. Clara leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder, and in that intimate moment, Adrian felt the walls around his heart crumble completely. Love, in its purest, most undeniable form, had returned to him, stronger than ever before. They moved toward the large window, the sunset casting warm, golden light across the room, illuminating the three of them. Adrian held the child in one arm, while Clara's hand remained entwined with his free hand. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of peace, a sense that all the mistakes, all the regrets, all the longing had been leading to this moment. Fate had given him a second chance, and he was determined not to waste it. "I want to be here," Adrian said quietly, looking down at the child, then back at Clara. "I want to be a father to him, and more than anything, I want to be with you, always." Clara smiled, her eyes shining with unshed tears, and leaned up to kiss him again, soft and lingering. "Then stay," she whispered. "Stay with us. We're ready for this, for all of it. And I'm ready for you, Adrian. I've been ready for you for a long time." Adrian pulled her close, feeling the weight of the years melt away in that single embrace. The child nestled against him, giggling softly, as if sensing the love radiating between them. Adrian's arms wrapped around both Clara and the child, holding them close. And in that moment, he understood the true meaning of family, of love, and of second chances. The world outside could wait. The mansion, the wealth, the expectations, they all faded into insignificance compared to this. He had the two people who mattered most in his life. And finally, the courage to love them completely without fear, without hesitation. The long years of longing, of silent dreams and secret regrets, had led to this moment of perfect clarity. And Adrian vowed silently, fiercely, that he would never let it go. Clara tilted her head, looking up at him with a softness that made his chest ache. "We'll have time," she said. "Time to laugh, to play, to fall even more in love. And time for him to grow up surrounded by love, our love." Adrian nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips as he kissed the top of her head. "Then let's begin," he whispered. "Let's begin the life we were meant to have." The child yawned, curling against his chest, and Adrian felt an overwhelming surge of emotion. Love, hope, desire, and the quiet, profound joy of belonging. Clara's hand tightened around his, and he knew, without a doubt, that they were exactly where they were meant to be, together, finally, in a love that had waited patiently for its perfect moment to ignite. The golden light of sunset bathed them in warmth, and as Adrian looked down at the child and back at Clara, he felt a certainty he had never known before, that no matter what challenges the future held, this love, this family would endure. It was real, it was undeniable, and it was theirs. And for the first time in years, Adrian allowed himself to truly believe in forever. As evening settled into night, the mansion seemed to breathe with new life, warmed by the laughter of the child and the quiet intimacy that had finally blossomed between Adrian and Clara. The fire in the grand hearth crackled softly, casting flickering golden light across the polished floor, illuminating their faces, and creating shadows that danced like memories of the past now washed away. Adrian held the child close in one arm while the other rested lightly against Clara's back, feeling the subtle warmth of her presence as if it had always belonged there, waiting for him. The child yawned again, rubbing his eyes, and Clara shifted, gently tucking him into Adrian's arms so he could rest comfortably. "You're a natural," she whispered with a smile, brushing a stray strand of hair from his forehead. Adrian felt a surge of pride and tenderness that he could barely contain, a rush of emotion so strong it left him momentarily breathless. He gazed down at the little boy, so full of life and innocence, and realized this was what he had been longing for all those years, a family, love, and the chance to be whole. Clara leaned against him slightly, her hand finding his, fingers interlacing naturally. The warmth of her touch was intoxicating, and Adrian felt a familiar spark of desire flare between them. She looked up at him, her eyes glistening in the firelight, and for a moment, the world beyond the room vanished. The wealth, the power, the empty halls, they all faded into insignificance, leaving only the three of them together, bound by love and destiny. "You're smiling," Clara said softly, a teasing note in her voice. "I don't think I've ever seen you look so content." Adrian chuckled, the sound low and genuine, something Clara hadn't heard from him in years. "I've waited a long time for this," he admitted, his voice husky. "Not just for you, Clara, for him, for all of us. I never thought I'd have this chance. And now that I do, I don't want to waste a single moment." Clara's smile deepened, and she leaned in closer, brushing her lips lightly against his cheek. "Then don't," she whispered. "Don't waste anything. Let's live every moment like it's ours, like it's meant to be." Adrian's hands moved her face, cupping her cheeks gently as he lowered his lips to hers. The kiss started slow, tender, full of the years of longing and regret that had finally found their release. When Clara responded, wrapping her arms around his neck and pressing closer, it became something more, a passionate, consuming force that left them both breathless, their hearts pounding in unison. The child giggled softly in Adrian's arms, his tiny hands patting Adrian's chest, and the sound made them both laugh. It was a sound so pure, so full of life, that it reminded them why this moment mattered more than anything else in the world. Adrian kissed Clara again, this time more deeply, letting the warmth of her body and the softness of her lips fill him with a sense of completeness he had never known. After a while, they pulled apart slightly, foreheads still touching, breaths mingling. "You're going to spoil him," Clara said softly, her tone teasing, yet full of affection. "He's already wrapped around your finger, and I think he's decided you're his favorite." Adrian smiled down at the child, who was now yawning and stretching in his arms. "Maybe I don't mind," he said, his voice full of warmth. "Maybe I like it." He looked back at Clara, and their eyes met in a silent exchange of understanding, of love, of desire, and of a future that was finally within reach. The child finally drifted off to sleep, his little chest rising and falling against Adrian's arm, and Adrian gently laid him down in a nearby crib, tucking a soft blanket around him. He stood and turned to Clara, pulling her close again, and for a long moment they simply held each other, feeling the quiet intimacy of shared space and shared hearts. "Do you ever think about that night?" Adrian asked softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "The one that changed everything, even though we didn't know at the time?" Clara looked up at him, her eyes shimmering in the firelight. "Every day," she admitted. "It was a moment I could never forget. I didn't know then what it would lead to, but I think it was the start of everything we have now." Adrian smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Then maybe it wasn't a mistake at all," he murmured. "Maybe it was fate guiding us back to each other." She pressed a soft kiss to his lips, lingering, her hands running through his hair, and he felt a shiver of desire mixed with tenderness course through him. "Fate," she echoed. "Or maybe just love. Real love, the kind that doesn't give up, no matter how long it takes." Adrian pulled her close again, their bodies pressed together, feeling the warmth and softness of her form against his. He traced gentle patterns along her back, savoring the feel of her skin, the gentle rise and fall of her breath, the subtle scent of her perfume mixed with the faint hint of her natural warmth. Clara responded with equal fervor, her hands exploring the familiar curves of his body, reigniting a passion that had lain dormant for years. "I never thought I'd feel this again," Adrian whispered against her ear, his lips brushing the sensitive skin there. "I never thought I could want someone like this. You and him, you've changed everything for me." Clara's lips curved into a soft, teasing smile, her hands tightening around his shoulders. "And you've changed me," she replied. "You've given me hope, Adrian, not just for myself, but for us, for our family." They moved together toward the large window, where the moonlight poured in, casting a silvery glow over the room. Adrian held her close, feeling the steady rhythm of her heart against his own. The child slept soundly in the next room, and for the first time in years, Adrian felt a sense of peace, of belonging, and of love so profound it filled every corner of his heart. Clara rested her head on his chest, her eyes closing as she let the warmth of his embrace surround her. Adrian kissed the top of her head, holding her tightly, savoring the quiet intimacy of the moment. "We'll have so many days like this," he murmured. "So many nights, so many moments, and I promise I'll never let you go again." She looked up at him, her eyes glistening with tears of joy, and whispered, "I believe you, and I'll never let you go either." The fire crackled behind them, shadows dancing across their entwined forms, and Adrian knew, with a certainty that left no room for doubt, that this was only the beginning. Love had found its way back to them, stronger and more passionate than ever, and nothing, neither time nor fear nor circumstance, could ever take it away. As they held each other under the moonlight, the world outside disappeared, leaving only the three of them, bound together by fate, by love, and by a second chance that neither Adrian nor Clara would ever waste. The moonlight streamed to the tall windows, casting a silver glow across the room and highlighting the gentle curve of Clara's face as she rested against Adrian's chest. For a moment, the world outside ceased to exist, the city, the mansion, the endless expectations of wealth and status. All of it vanished. It was just them, wrapped in an intimacy that had been years in the making, a love that had quietly grown through absence, longing, and a quiet ache of unspoken desire. Adrian shifted slightly, adjusting Clara in his arms, feeling the warmth of her body and the soft rise and fall of her breath. "You feel perfect here," he murmured, his lips brushing the top of her head. "Like nothing else in the world matters except this moment." Clara smiled softly, lifting her head to look at him. "It does," she said, her voice a gentle whisper. "Because this is real. You're real, and he's real." She gestured toward the sleeping child in the crib, his small chest rising and falling with each steady breath. "Our little miracle." Adrian's eyes softened as he looked at the child, then back at Clara. He lifted a hand to cup her cheek, feeling the warmth and softness of her skin under his fingertips. "I don't know how I lived all these years without knowing this, without knowing you," he admitted, his voice low and trembling with emotion. "I was incomplete until now." Clara reached out and ran her fingers through his hair, tugging him slightly closer. "We were always meant to find our way back," she whispered. "Even if it took years, even if we had to grow and change and endure loneliness, we were meant to be together, and now we are." The tension that had built between them over years of absence now melted into something sweet and tender, but still charged with desire. Adrian leaned down, capturing her lips in a kiss that was gentle at first, testing, savoring, and then slowly deepening as a flood of emotions they had held back for so long poured out. Clara responded, wrapping her arms around him, pressing herself closer, as if the warmth of their bodies could erase every lonely night they had spent apart. They broke apart only briefly, gasping softly, foreheads resting together. "I want to make up for every moment we lost," Adrian whispered. "Every second, every day, every year. I want to give it all to you, to him, to us." Clara smiled, a mix of joy and longing shining in her eyes. "Then we will," she said softly. "We'll take it slow if we need to, or dive into it if that's what our hearts say. But whatever we do it together." Adrian nodded, leaning his forehead against hers. "Together," he agreed, and in that single word, he felt the weight of years lift from his shoulders, replaced by a sense of belonging he had never known. The child stirred in his sleep, murmuring softly, and Adrian chuckled quietly, tilting his head to look at him. "He's going to keep us on our toes, isn't he?" he said, a mixture of amusement and wonder in his voice. Clara laughed softly, the sound like music to his ears. "Yes," she said, resting her head against his chest again. "But I can't imagine life any other way. With you, with him, it's perfect." Adrian tightened his hold on her, feeling the pulse of life, love, and hope all around him. "Perfect," he repeated, letting the word hang in the air. "After all this time, it finally feels perfect." They moved closer to the fire, the glow bathing their faces in golden light, and Adrian guided Clara to sit beside him on a soft rug, the child nestled in a blanket nearby. He pulled her onto his lap, wrapping his arms around her waist, feeling the smooth curve of her back against him. "You have no idea how much I've imagined this," he confessed, his voice husky. "Holding you like this, being close, it's everything I've wanted for years." Clara tilted her head, brushing her lips against his cheek. "I've imagined it too," she admitted. "Every night, every day, Every time I thought about you, I dreamed of this moment. And now it's real, and it feels even better than I imagined." Their lips met again in a soft, lingering kiss, full of tenderness and yearning, each of them savoring connection they had waited so long to reclaim. Adrian's hands traced the lines of her shoulders, down her arms, memorizing every inch of her as if trying to imprint her into his very being. Clara responded in kind, her fingers exploring the familiar contours of his chest, feeling the warmth and strength that had drawn her to him years ago. The child stirred again, opening his eyes slowly, blinking up at them with wide curiosity. Adrian smiled down at him, gently brushing the hair from his forehead. "Don't worry, little one," he said softly. "We're not going anywhere. We're right here together." Clara rested her head against his shoulder, her arms tightening around him. "I never want to be apart from either of you again," she murmured. This is my home, my heart, my life." Adrian held her tightly, letting the words settle in his soul. "And you'll never be apart from me," he replied. "I promise, for every day, every night, every year ahead, I'll be here. For you, for him, for us." The room fell silent for a while, save for the gentle crackle of the fire and the soft breathing of their child. In that quiet, Adrian felt an overwhelming sense of peace and completeness. Every regret, every lonely night, every moment of longing had led to this. He had his love, his child, his family, and for the first time in years he allowed himself to believe in forever. Clara lifted her head, her eyes meeting his with soft intensity. "Let's not waste another moment," she whispered. "Let's make every second count for us, for him, for everything we've waited for." Adrian smiled, tilting his head to capture her lips in another long, slow kiss, feeling the electricity between them ignite anew. He pulled her closer, holding her as if he could never let her go, and in that embrace they both knew, without question, that their love, their family, and their future were finally within reach. The firelight flickered, shadows dancing around them, and the mansion that had once felt cold and empty now pulsed with warmth, love, and possibility. Adrian rested his forehead against Clara's once more, breathing in her scent, feeling the steady rhythm of her heartbeat against his own. "We have everything we need," he murmured. "Right here, right now, we have everything." Clara's lips curved into a smile, soft and radiant. "And it's just the beginning," she whispered. "The beginning of our life, our love, our family." Adrian kissed her gently, holding her as close as he could, letting the years of longing, regret, and desire pour into this one perfect, endless moment. And as they sat together, wrapped in each other's arms, the child nestled safely nearby, Adrian knew with every fiber of his being that they were finally home, together, and bound by a love that nothing could ever break. Night deepened outside the mansion, and the soft glow of the fire reflected in Adrian's eyes as he held Clara close. The child had drifted back to sleep, curled under a light blanket, but the warmth of family and the quiet intimacy of the room made everything else fade away. For the first time in years, Adrian felt completely grounded, fully alive, and entirely consumed by the love that had returned to him. Clara tilted her head, brushing her lips lightly against his collarbone. "Do you realize how long I've waited for this?" she whispered, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. "All those years, wondering if I'd ever see you again, if we'd ever get a second chance, and now here you are. And he's here. We have it all." Adrian closed his eyes, savoring the warmth of her breath, the softness of her skin against his. "I've thought about this night 1,000 times," he admitted, his voice low, filled with emotion. "How it would feel to hold you again, to finally tell you everything I couldn't before. And now that it's real, it's more than I ever imagined. You and him, you've made me whole again." Clara leaned closer, her fingers tracing gentle patterns along his chest. "I've felt it too," she murmured. "Even when we were apart, I carried you with me. And now, we don't have to carry it alone anymore." Adrian tilted his head to capture her lips in a soft, lingering kiss. This one was slower, deeper, filled with all the longing and passion that had been restrained for years. Clara responded with equal intensity, wrapping her arms around his neck, holding him as if she could melt into him entirely. The connection between them was electric, alive with desire, tenderness, an unspoken promise that nothing could ever separate them again. The quiet of the room was punctuated by the occasional crackle of the fire, the soft rustle of fabric, and the gentle rhythm of their breathing. Adrian ran his fingers through Clara's hair, savoring the silky strands, the gentle scent of her shampoo and natural warmth. He could feel the curve of her back against his chest, her heartbeat steady and trusting, and it sent a shiver down his spine. Every inch of her felt familiar, yet every touch sparked new desire, new life, new love. Clara whispered softly against his ear, her voice a mixture of playfulness and intimacy. "You've changed, but in all the right ways," she said. "The man I met years ago was confident, powerful, and now I see someone more. Someone gentle, someone capable of love in a way I never imagined." Adrian smiled against her hair, letting her words sink into him. "And you," he said, lifting his head slightly to meet her gaze, "you've grown into someone breathtaking, strong, kind, and infinitely captivating. You're everything I dreamed of and more." She leaned in, pressing her lips to his in a soft, teasing kiss that quickly deepened as Adrian responded with a passion that had been waiting to be unleashed for years. Their hands roamed freely, discovering each other with a renewed hunger, a mixture of tenderness and desire that made them forget everything outside the room. Adrian pulled back slightly, resting his forehead against hers, breathing heavily. "We have so much time now," he whispered. "So many moments to make up for. Nights, mornings, afternoons, laughter, kisses, love. I want all of it with you." Clara's eyes shimmered with unshed tears as she smiled. "Then let's take it all," she said, her voice firm yet soft. "Every moment, every heartbeat, every day. Together. And not just us, we have him too. Our little family. Our life." Adrian glanced toward the crib where the child slept, peaceful and innocent. A wave of tenderness and protectiveness washed over him. He knelt briefly to check on the little one, brushing a soft kiss across his forehead, and then returned to Clara, pulling her into his lap fully. She curled against him, their bodies entwined, and he could feel the heat and closeness between them growing. "I never imagined love could feel like this," Adrian murmured, holding her close. "So complete, so consuming, right?" Clara smiled, her lips brushing his jawline. "It's not just love," she said softly. "It's fate, it's destiny. We were meant to find our way back, to create this life. And now we have a chance to cherish it, to nurture it, to let it grow." Adrian pressed a gentle kiss to the top of her head. "I promise," he whispered, his voice filled with conviction. "I'll protect you and him and this love for the rest of my life. Nothing will come between us again. I'll make sure of it." Clara's fingers tangled in his hair, her lips brushing his cheek in a soft, lingering caress. "I trust you," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "And I'll stand by you through everything. No matter what comes, we'll face it together." The fire crackled behind them, casting flickering shadows across the room. Adrian held her tighter, feeling her warmth and the steady beat of her heart against his chest. In that moment, he felt an overwhelming sense of completeness, a joy so profound it left him almost breathless. The years of longing, regret, and unanswered questions had all led to this. The reunion, the family, the love that had waited patiently for its moment. "I never want this night to end," Adrian confessed, his lips brushing hers again in a soft, lingering kiss. "Not tonight, not ever." Clara smiled, pressing herself closer. "Then it won't," she whispered. "We'll carry this feeling with us, every day, every night, every moment. And we'll make sure he grows up surrounded by this love, this happiness. Together." Adrian nodded, holding her close, feeling the truth of her words settle deep into his soul. "Together," he repeated, savoring the sound of it. Finally, after all this time, we're together. Their lips met once more, slow and deliberate, a kiss full of promise, passion, and the unspoken vow that nothing would ever come between them again. Clara's arms wrapped tightly around him, and he held her as if it could shield her from everything, as a holding her close could make up for every lonely night, every missed opportunity, every moment lost to time. The child stirred slightly in his sleep, a small sigh escaping his lips, and Adrian smiled down at him, brushing a soft kiss across his forehead once more. He looked back at Clara, and in her eyes, he saw the same reflection of love, hope, and certainty. For the first time in years, everything felt right, and nothing in the world could shake the foundation they had built together in this single, perfect moment. Adrian tilted his head, capturing her lips in a long, lingering kiss that spoke of years lost, years waited, and a future full of love, passion, and family. Clara responded with equal fervor, her fingers tracing the lines of his back, memorizing every inch of him as if to ensure that nothing would ever separate them again. As the night stretched on, they remained entwined, their hearts beating in unison, the child peacefully asleep nearby, and the fire casting a warm glow over the room. Every touch, every glance, every whispered word carried the weight of years lost and the promise of a lifetime ahead. And in that quiet intimacy, Adrian realized, truly and completely, that he had finally found his home, his family, and his love. A love that had endured time, distance, and separation, and now burned brighter than ever, filling every corner of his heart with warmth, passion, and the certainty that they would never be apart again. The weeks that followed became a delicate dance of rediscovery. Adrian, Clara, and their child moved through the days as if in a dream, learning the rhythm of life together, savoring the quiet joys and the unexpected moments that came with forming a family. Each morning, sunlight streamed to the tall windows of the mansion, spilling warmth over three of them. The child would tumble out of bed first, giggling and wide-eyed, and Adrian would scoop him into his arms while Clara followed, laughter spilling from her lips, her presence radiating a gentle, unshakable love that seemed to anchor them all. Adrian marveled at the intimacy of these moments. The way Clara's fingers brushed his as they carried breakfast together, the way her laughter could lift his soul, the way their child's innocence could soften every hardened edge of his heart. Each day, each touch, each smile reinforced the truth he had always known deep within. This was the life he had been searching for, the love he had longed for, the family he had yearned to protect with every fiber of his being. At night, when the mansion was quiet and the child slept peacefully in the adjoining room, Adrian and Clara would find themselves alone in the vast spaces that once felt empty and cold. And in those moments, they rediscover each other. Every curve, every touch, every whispered confession of desire and devotion. They would sit together in the firelight, hands entwined, foreheads pressed together, feeling the steady beat of each other's hearts as if it were music composed for them alone. "You know," Clara said one evening, her head resting on his chest, "I never thought we'd make it here. After all those years apart, I didn't know if we'd ever find our way back to this moment." Adrian kissed the top of her head, feeling the warmth of her hair and the softness of her skin against his lips. "I believed we would," he said, his voice low, earnest. "Even when I didn't see you, even when I thought you were gone forever, I knew, somehow, that fate would bring us back together. And now, looking at you, holding you, seeing him sleeping peacefully, I understand why it had to take this long. To make us appreciate it, to make us stronger, to make this love unshakable." Clara lifted her head to meet his gaze, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears and quiet joy. "Stronger, yes," she said softly, "but also more real, more patient, more lasting. We didn't just find each other. We found the life we were meant to have. And I feel it every day, every moment, every heartbeat." Adrian smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face, his fingers lingering against her cheek. "Then let's never waste another second," he whispered. "Let's live every day fully, with love and passion and laughter. Let's make sure that every moment counts, not just for us, but for him, for our family." Clara leaned in, her lips capturing his in a tender, lingering kiss. The warmth between them was not just physical, but profound, a connection of souls that had endured the test of time. In that kiss, all their fears, regrets, and past mistakes melted away, leaving only love, pure, unyielding, eternal. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and the child grew, his laughter and curiosity filling every corner of the mansion. Adrian discovered a new side to himself, a gentle, patient, nurturing side he had never fully known. Each bedtime story, each playful chase through the hallways, each quiet moment of comfort when the child was scared or hurt, revealed a depth of love he had never imagined. Clara watched him with quiet admiration, her heart swelling with pride and affection for the man who had always seemed untouchable, now fully vulnerable in his love for her and their child. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in hues of gold and rose, Adrian led Clara to the balcony overlooking the sprawling gardens. The child was asleep in his room, and the world outside seemed to pause in reverent silence. Adrian held Clara close, their bodies pressed together as the cool evening breeze brushed against their skin. "Do you remember the first time we met?" Adrian asked softly, a wistful smile on his lips. Clara laughed lightly, leaning against his chest. "How could I forget? You were arrogant, self-assured, and completely unaware of the chaos you were about to create in my life." Adrian chuckled, resting his chin atop her head. "Chaos, yes, but beautiful chaos. The kind that changes everything. That makes you see the world differently. I didn't know it then, but that night, it started a story I never wanted to end. And now, years later, here we are. Everything I ever wanted, everything I ever needed. I have it because of you." Clara tilted her head to look at him, her eyes shimmering with emotion. "And I have you," she said softly, "not just as a lover, but as a partner, a friend, a father to our child, and the anchor in my life. I've waited for this, Adrian, and now that it's real, I never want to let it go." He kissed her again, long and slow, the kind of kiss that spoke of devotion, longing, and eternity. "You'll never have to," he whispered. "I'll never let you go. Not ever. We'll face everything together. Joy, sorrow, challenges, victories. And through it all, we'll have each other. Always." The night deepened around them, stars sparkling in the endless sky above, and Adrian and Clara stood together in silence, hearts beating in sync, souls entwined. They felt the weight of their past, the pain of years lost, and yet, more than that, they felt the triumph of love that had endured. It was a love refined by time, hardened by absence, and made immeasurably beautiful by the obstacles it had overcome. Days continued, but each one felt precious, each one a gift. They celebrated birthdays, small victories, and quiet moments of togetherness. The mansion, once a place of hollow grandeur, now pulsed with life, love, and laughter. Every corner echoed with memories of joy, each room a testament to the bond they had forged. Adrian found joy in the little things, a child's laughter, Clara's smile, the warmth of her hand in his. He realized that wealth and power had never mattered as much as these moments of pure, unadulterated love. One evening, as the family sat together by the fireplace, the child nestled between them, Adrian looked at Clara with eyes full of quiet reverence. "We've been given a second chance," he said softly, "and I intend to make the most of it. Every day, every hour, every moment. I want to love you, cherish you, and protect our family." Clara rested her head against his shoulder, her hands holding his. "And I will do the same," she whispered. "We'll face life together, laugh together, cry together, and grow together. What we have, it's unbreakable. It's forever." Adrian smiled, pressing a gentle kiss to her temple. "Forever," he echoed. "That's the word I've been waiting to say all these years. And now we live it." The child stirred, giggling softly, reaching for both of them with tiny hands, as if to seal the bond that had been years in making. Adrian lifted him into his lap, and Clara leaned closer, wrapping her arms around both of them. In that embrace, the three of them formed a perfect circle of love, unshakable and eternal. As the fire flickered and the night deepened, Adrian and Clara knew that their story, full of longing, mistakes, destiny, and love, had finally found its resolution. Not an ending, but a beginning. A life together, bound by passion, devotion, and the shared miracle of their child. They had endured time, distance, and uncertainty, but the force of their love had never wavered. It had grown, matured, and now radiated with the brilliance of 1,000 suns, touching everything around them with warmth and light. Adrian held Clara close once more, pressing a soft, reverent kiss to her lips, feeling the steady rhythm of her heartbeat against his own. "This is our story," he whispered. "Not just the past, but everything we will create from now on. Together, always." Clara smiled, her lips brushing his, her heart full of love, hope, and certainty. "Together," she echoed. And in that single word, They both understood the magnitude of what they had, an unbreakable bond, a love that had waited years to bloom, and a family forged by destiny, passion, and enduring devotion. The mansion, once empty and cold, now glowed with warmth, laughter, and life. The child slept peacefully, cradled in the arms of the father he had unknowingly longed for, while the mother and father shared a love so deep and profound it seemed to light the very stars above. And as they sat together, entwined in body, heart, and soul, Adrian and Clara knew this was the true magnificence of life. The love that waits, the love that endures, and the love that finally arrives, blazing and uncontainable, to fill every corner of the heart. And so, under the soft glow of moonlight and firelight, they began the rest of their lives together, undaunted, unbroken, and bound by a love that would echo through every moment, every memory, and every heartbeat for all the days to come. They had found their forever, and nothing in the world could ever take it away.